The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Listen in as your host, Casey Colburn, brings together a perfectly picked panel of guests to discuss hot topics and events within the metaphysical and paranormal field. But don't worry, should the discussions get too heated, our studio's witch will sound her cackle to simmer the cauldron back down. Listen for new episodes of Cauldron Talk with Casey Colburn every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. only on Paranormal Buzz Radio. Welcome to Cauldron Talk. I'm your host, Casey Colburn, and today we welcome to our circle Daryl Marston, Alonnie Milligan, and Heather Mattison. This is Season 2, Episode 2, and today we are talking about symbolism. Welcome to Cauldron Talk, guys. If you could, please give me a little bit about yourself.
My name's Daryl Marston. I've been doing paranormal for almost 16 years now. I'm co-lead investigator for Ghost Hunters, the TV show, and I'm part owner of Paranormal Warehouse and the American Ghost Hunter Show and Breaking Paranormal.
Very cool.
I'm Alonnie. I am a psychic medium for, going on 150 years, it feels like. I enjoy coming on the podcast with you, Kay. We have such a good time. Been talking to dead folks for a long, long time. Chasing after things to go bump in the dark. Good times.
My name is Heather Mattison. My husband Robert and I own a haunted bed and breakfast called Greystone Manor in Gasport, New York. I'm a psychic medium also, a Reiki practitioner. I'm an author. I do classes. I teach classes and pendulums and other things such as cards, Oracle Earth Magic cards, and things like that too. So all different things right now.
Very cool. So today I have you guys on to talk about symbolism and symbols within the metaphysical and paranormal field. My first question for you is, so symbolism is an aspect of many cultures, yet many of them have certain taboo around them. What are some of the symbols that you feel have wrongly been perceived as negative?
In my opinion, probably the pentagram, which became really popular in the 1960s with Anton LaVey and the Church of Satan, or New Church of whatever they want to call it. At this point, it's changed its name like 3 or 4 times, which was originally a Christian symbol. And it's been used in multiple movies over the last 40, 50 years. And I think it's got a bad rap of being something to do with Satanism and things of that nature, where, it really has nothing to do with that. I think Hollywood and modern culture has brought it to that level where people, every time they see a pentagram in an old abandoned house that somebody spray painted, they think it's automatically devil worship, when usually if you see something like that, if they're not a devil worshiper, they just don't know what they're doing.
If we start off with the pentacle, or the pentagram, as a nice little priestess that I am, that's, symbol that means so much wonderful for me. And, I wear one on my back. And, because for eons it was such a symbol of goodness, and
right.
that it got perverted. For me, I would look at a cross, a Christian cross, or a crucifix, and that bothers me. I know that for some people that's a symbol of beauty and wonder and sacrifice, and to me it's torture and harm, right? So it's the religious symbology that we have around some of these things goes back so far that it can be perverted in whatever way you want. Take the antlered crown that people wore to bring about sympathetic magic to make their crops grow. All of a sudden, once the powers that be wanted to take over, then the antlered crown became the devil, right? So you can take whatever symbol that is used in iconology for good or bad and turn it however you want, depending on who's in power and who wants control.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with all that too, and I think a lot of it has to do with popular culture too. A lot of things are brought about. People don't know where they came from. You know, it could be from a movie from the 1940s. And they don't even know why they're afraid of it now. You have all sorts of superstitions that are out there too. You know, growing up in a family where my grandmother was psychic, used to do tea leaf readings and things like that. So everything was taboo. Plus they were English, so there was a lot of funny superstitions that I had never even heard of before, but that they always practiced. You know, if you break a dish, you had to break 3 more. You know, all sorts of different things. You can't have 13 people sitting at a table, so the number 13 became a huge thing. But I just grew up always worrying about number 13 because my grandmother was so funny, and then she ended up having 13 grandchildren, and she was horrified. She was trying to make them have another grandchild. She thought she was damned to hell because there were 13 grandchildren. So the number 13 became big. And then, you know, black cats, black cats got a, bad rap and going back to the Middle Ages, and they thought they were, oh my gosh, associated with witches and all that kind of thing. So they tried to kill them all off, and it was bad. I mean, you had a lot of weird stuff. And it all goes back to some weird superstition, Don't walk on a crack on the sidewalk and break your mother's back. All those funny things that you hear as a kid, and you don't know where they came from or who started them. So.
Yeah, with the black cat, the color black is actually one of the biggest things that I try to dispel among people, because it's right into our roots as just people, because as a dog trainer, people will be more afraid of a black dog. They can have a white dog sitting there snarling at them and try to approach that dog versus the black dog that would probably not harm a fly. And so the color black, like, it definitely has this air of negativity to it that it's very irrational. To me, it's a very encompassing color because it is all of the colors in one. And it blankets the earth, protecting it. And there's a lot of wonderful things that I find with the color black. So it's very unfortunate that it is wrongly feared by so many. So my next question for you guys, when and why did symbolism become a day-to-day part of society?
I think that could date all the way back to the cavemen. I mean, you'll find things in caves and things of that nature, in these caverns where there's drawings on the wall of certain symbols that they would use, and it was more of a language for them to ward off. To kind of communicate with the other tribes and things of that nature. I think that goes back to the beginning of man, before we were able to even have a language, any languages at all. Symbolism, it was just part of the language. And I think it's just grown and grown and grown over the thousands of years we've been in existence. And it's to where it is today, where there was, like we were just saying about certain symbols that we know today, Hollywood has taken it to a different level and made them more popular to be bad things when they were never meant to be bad. So, I mean, the symbols that you see today are, like the pentagram or the pentacle, and even like the swastika. That's been around for thousands of years. And we think, as soon as we see one, we think Nazi Germany, when they were around during Roman times and Greek times. It was just, they were slightly tilted a little bit differently. So you take it how you want. I mean, it's they've been around forever. People have been using all kinds of different symbols to just for language and to honor something that, whatever their belief is.
I totally support that. I totally agree with that, because we, from the early caves in France where they found the pictology and just across the whole world, you're going to find these things that conveyed the word, the meaning, the time of year, the whatever, to other cultures, to other people. And you'll see it from across the globe. There may be a picture of a goddess of Willendorf kind of figure, and you'll find in other countries the same thing where they've never associated, right? So it's that global kind of thing. And we take those early things, those symbols, and some we hang on to. If you look at a tree and the leaves are upside down, it's going to rain, right? You learn those symbols, and so you carry those forward and use them to your advantage or not. I mean, when when we used animals, I still use animals as totems, as a symbol, or if we see a red sky at night, sailor delight, red sky in the morning, sailor take warning. We learn these symbols and we carry them forward. And I think it's part of the oral tradition that has been lost. And a certain percentage of the younger people coming up have no clue about a lot of things. And so they've lost that understanding of how to see something and dissect it, to understand what's going on with it and what to use it for. Just what they've been told or shown, like through Hollywood or through miscommunication. Look what our own country did for eons, decades for as far as indigenous people, in our own history books. But they would use the symbology of them as being savages and terrible and, red-tongued devils.
Right.
So if we continue with this, no one's really going to have a true understanding, because that part's going to get overrun. I think it's part of our job, people in this field and people who are able to work on other levels, dimensions, realities, whatever, to carry on those oral traditions, to carry forth our ability to read these symbols.
Right, and I was years ago. I started making little protection vials and candles and things like that. I would sell or make for people to protect them when they would travel for anything, summoning spirits, for whatever this was, fidelity, all sorts of different things. And I started looking into everything from symbolic colors. What did all the colors mean? What did all the feather colors mean? What did just colors in general mean? What did different spices, herbs, because they all mean different things. And I would go through and check all the different cultures. So going to everything from Native American to ancient Egypt to Buddhists, to see in basil and all these cultures, basil is all about protection. And then I was making a list of everything that sort of all seemed to jive and the same. So it's like people knew, like back in the day, these are ancient beliefs, but they all think that, amethyst has something to do with psychic ability, or protection from ghosts and demons. Like I use salt, so you use salt all the time. And these are all ancient beliefs and all ancient symbology, going back to all these different cultures. And going back to Native American culture, you're talking about things like the swastika with the Nazis, obviously. But if you go to Buffalo City Hall, the floor has a huge swastika in it, because when it was built way back in the 1800s, it was all Native American designs. And the swastika had nothing to do with anything. I mean, the Germans took it, but they just thought it was a cool design. It wasn't like they invented it. You know what I mean? This is an ancient symbol. So it gets sort of interesting. I think it's fascinating how, all these different cultures agree on the same things, that the same principles mean the same things going all through all the different continents,
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting thing. A lot of symbols definitely get taken or borrowed, bits and pieces too, here and there. That's why I think a lot of symbols actually look similar to other symbols and mean very similar things, but very, for whatever that society needed it to mean. So my third question for you guys: do you use symbolism, and how do you use symbolism in symbols in your everyday life?
Do I? Not really. I don't use symbols. You see symbolism every day just driving down the street. You'll see a stop sign. That's a form of symbolism. And it's something your mind, you don't have to even read a stop sign. You can be anywhere in this country or North America or South America and see a stop sign. You automatically know to stop as you see that red. So you see them every day in your life. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any that I use. But yeah, no, I don't think I use anything. No.
I use symbolism quite a bit in my daytime job, and certainly when I'm working with esoteric clients. There's a lot of symbology I use there. Even if I turn on I call it the blinky thing, but it's just the K2 meter kind of deal, so they can see the pretty lights, right? So they like that symbology. Okay, see the pretty lights, the people are around us, that kind of thing. For me, Because I wear a pentacle ring, to me that is a declaration of myself for myself. It's my comfort place to feel this is what's home to me: earth, air, fire, and water, spirit. Right? That feels good to me. But on my office wall, I've got a voodoo doll. There's that symbol too, and it just means, please don't mess with me. Please don't mess with me. And I think that symbology for me cuts through the baloney, cuts through the layers, and I can get right to the truth of what I'm trying to say. And I agree, the stop sign is a great analogy.
Yeah, I would say as far as symbology every day, I mean, when I'm working, I do readings for clients. I do a lot of work with different gemstones and chakra levels and things like that, and I'll have people pick color. I won't tell them why, but I'll have them pick stones and hold them in their hand. But to me, all those stones mean certain things, and the colors all mean something different. So when people take those colors, depending on what they're holding, it'll give me a symbol right away. Like I'll know if they're taking anything that's green, say for instance, it's all heart chakra, they may be having issues in that part of their body. Could be heart trouble, love life, depending on what I'm picking up, psychically. So it's sort of a symbol to me when they pick up those colors. Same with blue. It's all throat chakra. They may be having trouble communicating. Someone might not understand them. And then physically, it's all your upper back and neck issues. So it's always, to me, that's sort of interesting. I definitely work with colors a lot when I'm working with other people. But then day to day, like you said, it's, as far as seasons go, symbols, like you said, the, red sky at night, sailor's delight and all that. There's a lot of that stuff that just goes on with tradition. But there are all these weird little tricks that you don't realize you're doing, or that you're seeing, that you're picking up on, that are daily.
Well, yeah, I want to go back and change something I said too, because when you say symbols, I do kind of use them when I'm working on the show. Like if we'll be in a haunted location, I use a lot of hand gestures to show what's going on, especially to the camera. Like if I hear footsteps, I'll do like the two fingers walking. Or if I'm pointing down like a hallway or pointing in a direction something's coming in, I always use my left or right hand to kind of the whole hand to show the direction it's coming from. So yeah, I would say I definitely do that, use symbolism in some way there.
Yeah, it as you start thinking about all the different things that you actually do use some sort of symbolism in, it really becomes quite interesting, because a lot of it is subconscious cues. Which is actually something that animals will do, like with the pink sky at night, and with any type of like storms, or like with the leaves flipping upside down. Animals know to kind of pay attention to that sort of thing too, and they'll get out of the way of danger. So it's kind of interesting, because a lot of what we know we've actually learned from them, and vice versa. Plus, now that it's kind of been ingrained into our daily lives, we don't notice that we're paying attention to it so much until we start thinking about it. It's really kind of, and it's a very interesting thing that happens there. So my fourth question for you guys, do you have a favorite symbol?
All right. So a tree is an important symbol for me. And the moon is an important symbol for me. And
that's mine too.
And the pentacle, those are things that are important to me.
I think I would say probably the sun for me. I just seeing sunlight and the sun as a symbol means growth. I would say I know, I forget who said it, that on here that the cross was something that wasn't good to them, but I think the cross is a symbol for me. I appreciate the cross. That's all I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think for symbols for me, for my business and the way I work, I had my logo made where it's a black cat. I like the black cats. I love everything about just the cats in general, because going back even to Egyptian days where they used to worship the cats, they thought that they were spirit messengers. And then in different cultures, they believe that cats will usher in your spirit into the next realm, where they believe that dogs watch your physical body, so they'll protect you on earth from anything that's a lower level vibration, like a ghost. So dogs will always look low and growl when they think they're sensing something in a room or in a building, but cats will always look up high, because they're seeing the higher orders. So they're seeing angels, they're seeing spirits, they're seeing that type of higher energy. So I always like the black cat. And also I like that they're telepathic, because animals don't speak. They don't really have a language, but they'll look at each other and they'll both go in the same direction, like two cats will. You know what I mean? It's very strange when you watch animals. They're not talking to each other, but they'll both like follow each other somewhere. They're communicating in a telepathic level. So for me, I love black cats. I love everything about it. And the moon is another one for me, because I know that the moon sort of affects you on all different levels, different stages of the moon, different phases of the moon. You definitely feel different. People on Earth just feel, as a general rule, will definitely react to that, to the moon.
Yeah, I love animals. I take a lot with symbolism with when I see different animals, but my favorite symbols are the tricorta and the medicine wheel. Both of them are very sacred to me. All right, so my fifth question for you. This one is going to be a little bit different because it's not one that everybody has an opinion on, but it is something that I've had a couple of people actually approach me about. But do you have any sort of feeling or about using symbols as tattoos?
No, I don't. I mean, it's your body. You can do as you please. No, I have no problem with that. I think I think tattoos, if they're done right, are beautiful. If you want to put a symbol on your body, or or even a sigil on your body, that's your prerogative.
I have mixed feelings, because I love body art. I think it's beautiful. I was 37 before I got my one and only little thing on my back, but it was for a spiritual reason. It was out of a religious reason that I did it, as opposed to the art part of it. And so there's some beautiful artwork. I think that body can be an incredible canvas. And so there's some symbols that can be put on there that are definitely going to make a statement, whether they're to be admired or to fear, right? When I have a client that comes in with 5 or 6 teardrops on their eye, they want me to know what they have done in their life. Well, that's fine and dandy, and it's your body. You could do what you want to do. So are you trying to show me the beauty in this, or are you trying to make me afraid of you? So I have a double-edged sword on that. My 2 of my sons have lovely tattoos on their bodies, and it's beautiful. And I have a lot of friends that are tattoo artists, and they do incredible work. And I appreciate the beauty in it. When you're doing a pin tat because you're in prison, I don't know if I carry that so much weight as thinking it's great.
Right.
Maybe it means something to them, but to me, it's like, well, okay, all right, I know what gang you're in. Okay, we're good.
Well, I think it's changed a lot too. I mean, people getting tattoos nowadays isn't like it used to be back in the day. Now, so many people get tattoos, and they get full. My daughter, and she's got full sleeve tattoos. I don't have any tattoos, but her tattoos are all. There's a video game called The Legend of Zelda, and we're like, when you're like 80. But it's so funny because it's just one of those things. She loves it. It's the Triforce. It's all that stuff. She loves all the symbolism behind all that. She's really funny with Avatar and all that, which is funny. I keep telling her, I'm like, if you ever watch those cartoon shows, they actually go into deep spirituality. And I was telling her, do you realize what you're watching? What they're actually talking about. So that's sort of funny that I think they sort of miss what they're seeing, but there's a lot of deep messages in there. But I don't really have a problem. Nowadays, it's a little different. I don't know how many people regret things that they get tattooed. You see some really funny ones, but yeah, I don't know. It's not like the biker gangs back in the day as much. At least that's not what I'm seeing as much.
So I know one of the things that they were, concerned with was a lot of symbols can hold a lot of power, if you will, and they, the energy that they attract, and when I mean that, like, sure, we can look at it as energy as in metaphysical, but it can also attract energy as in, if I have a very, devout Christian, they might, if I'm wearing a pentagram on my wrist, they might look at that and start judging me that way. So it attracts that energy as well. So on both levels, that I think is what they were kind of getting a little bit more about But I think as long as you know what the symbol is, I think, because, knowledge is everything. And I would hope you would know what you're putting on your body that's going to be there forever. But I think there's really no harm in it. And a lot of when you're working with symbols, it's that intent that you put into it. So if you just really like a symbol, you know what it is, but you don't have any, positive or negative intent for it, then I think it's just going to be just an image that you've got tattooed on you. Do you guys kind of agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it would, you see these young kids getting tattoos all over their bodies and everything. And I think, in the long run, if they're going for an important job interview or something of that nature, it could probably harm them. It's not supposed to. They're not supposed to hold stuff like that against you, employers, but, they probably do. So you got to really watch what you put on your body, especially on your arms where people can see it. I mean, I think if it's somewhere hidden, like on your back or your chest or something where people aren't going to see it all the time, that's fine. But I would really suggest against putting any kind of like a pentagram because people don't understand on your arm where somebody can see it because they're going to automatically think, oh, you're a devil worshiper when you're probably 99.9% of the time you're not.
Yeah, and I'd say some are a cry for help too. I mean, if some people want attention, if they seem to be doing that, where they're putting things that it's almost like they want to gain the attention of someone. They're putting something on themselves, like you said, on their arms where you're really going to see it,
Right.
and it's something violent or something that's, who knows, racist or this or that, you know what I mean? Depends on what they've got on them. I mean, that's a whole nother thing. That you're getting into like psychological territory on the person getting the tattoo, that they've got issues, Not to be judgmental of people, but it just depends on where they're coming from when they do it.
Yeah,
it's such an interesting thing because if we look at some of the tribal nations still in Africa and the body art that they put on their face is incredibly intricate, or even Polynesian, it's very intricate and beautiful, and it embodies what they believe, and that holds a lot of energy. There's when someone is showing their connection with their spirit through their art on their body, to me, it resonates differently than somebody coming up to me and showing me, look, I just put 666 on my arm and I got a devil face. Look at me, oh, yeah, okay, that kind of thing. I personally like body paint, and as an actress, I get my face done different ways all the time. And that is very empowering, putting that mask on, changing that symbol of who you are in whatever guise that you do can alter your body, mind, and spirit. And so then you are that different person. And that brings a whole different symbol of what you're trying to bring out and what you're trying to do. There's just so many ways to look at this adornment thing that I don't know. There's no real answer, really.
There's also time limits on stuff too. You've got people change through their lifetimes. We got the rule of sevens, the Buddhists believing that every 7 years you go through change cycles. So people a lot of times are unrecognizable to themselves. If you go back to when you were 14 or when you were 21 or when you were 28, just the things you liked, the foods you ate, people you hung around with, they change so much. Your life changes so much. So when it comes to tattooing, that's difficult too, because if say you had to hit tattoo, you're 21 and then you're now 48. You know what I mean? You're probably not going to be into the same things you were back then, Like, oh, I got a Duran Duran tattoo.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's difficult. That gets tricky.
I work with several clients that are victims of sex trafficking, and part of the power over is they will tattoo in large print across the hands, slut and, CUNT, so that they know that they're property. And so now you have these young women who are now marred, right, until they can be taken off surgically or, through lasers. And that messes up the head.
Oh, yeah, I can only imagine. That's horrible.
Well, it's like the concentration camps when you had numbers put on you.
Exactly.
And you have to look at it every day. You see that tattoo every day.
It carries power. It carries an inflection of, all kinds of things. And then you have women who have had cancer and they've lost both their breasts and they have beautiful tattoos put on there to take their scars and make them into a thing of beauty. How could you not like that?
Mm-hmm. Well, my tattoos, I actually have them on my wrist because so I was in an accident that was really bad, and I have PTSD from it, and my tattoos being in that location kind of helped me focus away from that. So they definitely can have kind of like a medicinal use, I guess, if you will, for mental health. So it helps with that. Then plus the symbolism and what it means to me, it really does definitely help take your mind off from negative things. But it can definitely, if it's put there with negative intention, it definitely can have those issues. And again, it came back to what the intention is for that symbol. So we've been talking, we kind of circled around quite a bit about pentagrams. So there's the weird thing about pentagrams is at one point it became super scary when we inverted it. To me, it doesn't mean anything different. It's just an upside down pentagram. But do you guys have any thoughts on that?
No, I think I spoke what I was going to say about it. It's been just skilled over the years, and it's just become what it is today. I mean, like all the places I investigate, probably at least 10 or 20% of them, you go into this abandoned location, and somebody's come in there with spray paint, big graffiti with pentagrams everywhere, and 6666 and all this other stuff, and me. Being an investigator or anything, I'm automatically shrug it off because I know that they don't know what they're talking about and they don't know what they're putting on the walls because it doesn't mean what they think it does. If they really want to get into dark, symbols or sigils, you want to go to the higher and lower keys of Solomon, and that's where that type of stuff is, not in the pentagram.
Right, and another thing, like with the 666, I've noticed that 333 is also now a super scary number, and it's actually my lucky number. 333 is one of the angel numbers that I actually pay attention to, St. Michael's number, and so I have a lot of good connected to that. And to see it, on some of the TV shows, being denoted as this really bad thing, it just, and I get that it's supposed to be like the mocking of the Trinity, but I guess I just don't see it that way.
Going back to the inverted pentagram for a minute, depending on, the teaching that you had or how you were instructed through different, for me, the inverted was more so, that was more of what Anton LaVey was started out with when you inverted it in the Church of Satan, because the uprighted pentacle, right? The top point is spirit, right? Is God. And where it's inverted, it's talking about, well, God doesn't have power over us. We are equal to. So there are many interpretations for an inverted pentagram, just like there is for the cross and for the swastika and for all these other things that we talk about. It depends on how someone wants to use it or what they're going to look at it as.
Absolutely.
It is interesting when you go into a building and people have spray painted because they get caught up in the coolness factor and not necessarily know what they're doing. I agree.
Yeah.
Right. Again, it's that Hollywood thing, where they saw it once in a movie and this is supposed to be spooky, but they're not really involved in that. People who are truly into that kind of stuff aren't going to be that blatant about it, and they're not going to be out in the open like that. So,
yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, usually when you find stuff like that that's being used in ritual use, it's usually hidden. It's hidden behind mirrors and pictures, and it'll be etched in glass and things of that nature. For the different from north, east, south, and west. You come into the sigils and things of that nature. That's the people you got to that's the stuff you got to look out for when you're looking for that darker side of things.
Yeah, plus they hide, like you said, it's hidden. I mean, I have friends from Armenia, and they thought they were cursed. They thought the family's been cursed since the 1940s, they said. But they're always finding weird little, like feathers and things wrapped in leather, like hidden in their couch, like funny things, like people will come over and hide things on them. So it's like spell casting is old school stuff, going back to that kind of stuff where you're not going to see it. They're not going to be right in front of you doing it.
Nope.
No,
They're
and
going to be
if you
cursing you
don't know,
from their own spot or whatever.
right? And
Yeah.
if you don't know, it can be there for harm or it could be there with protection because
Yeah.
you know
Right.
it's got you don't know, you just don't know.
Right. Because it's just as much, that you can do that's good for people, good luck charms and that kind of thing. But people don't understand that either. But the symbols like that, like you're talking about the pentagrams, things, the upside down cross, that's, Hollywood stuff. I don't know how much of that really draws that negative energy in, unless, like you said, you're doing a big, like a blood sacrifice, or you're doing something to go with it, where you're doing like a serious ceremony along with it.
It's your intent, what you put into it. Even if you don't know, it's just like when someone's going to use the Ouija board and they don't know what they're doing. It's their intent that can open the door.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and plus, if you have bad intent, it's the golden rule of that. Whatever you're putting out there is coming back to you tenfold. So you have to be really careful. Anyone dabbling in that stuff, if it's actually very, very stupid to do that kind of stuff because you can really bring a lot of harm to yourself. So there's a lot of that too. Well, people just don't know.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, so my last question for you guys. What advice would you give to someone who is just starting to learn about and use symbols, sigils, or symbolism?
For me, I would tell them if they're trying to learn about some of that type of stuff, go and buy the Higher and Lower Keys of Solomon. You can go around Amazon and buy them, and it'll tell you a lot. It's really in depth, and it can educate people on some of that stuff as far as sigils go, and what they're used for and how people use them, and things of that nature.
yeah, it really depends on what they're looking to do, right? Like some of my heathen Viking mead makers are going to use runes on their bottles as a blessing, right? What is the purpose of the symbology you're looking to get, and why are you doing it? What's the reason behind what you're looking for? And then look at those symbols. Look at what you're looking. Look at the area that you're trying to make a symbol from or take a symbol from. If you just want a cacophony of stuff, then you're going to get a cacophony of action. Okay? So educate. I agree. You gotta do a little investigation, a little bit of figuring out what direction you're trying to do, and take the ego out of it, and allow yourself to get some knowledge.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, I would definitely do your homework. Say you want to look up pentagrams or see what that's all about. Don't just go to one source. Go to different sources. You're gonna read up on it. Something's gonna hit you. You know how things will sort of sit with you, well or not. Some things will just seem off, or they won't sound like they're hitting the right note with you, type of thing. So depending on what you're going for, like you said, if you're going for something drastic, or if you're going with ill intention, that's a whole nother world you're going to pull up. So it really is a matter of, don't just look at the first thing. You have to go through and do your homework, research it, look at many different options. See if we go online, don't just go to one site, go to a bunch of different ones and see what you're getting. It's like recipes, basically. Certain things you're going to like, that are just going to draw positive energy to you.
About I don't know how many years ago, 15, 20 years ago, I was doing a sermon at our local Unitarian church, and I was talking about the symbology we have in the architecture around us. And if you just walk around and look at some of the old architecture, you're going to find pentacles and green men and things from that the Masons use, and you're just going to find all these symbologies that you can find in your own town. And then you can learn so much about your area. And there's a place to look and start to see, well, what is it that is seeped in this area? What is this town made from? And start, you're right, educate yourself, learn.
Yeah, I think that's what you guys have said is it's excellent advice, especially for something like this. Education, I think, is key to everything. That's why I'm in a constant state of learning something new. I know one of the things that, like one of the symbolisms that are coming up that are becoming more popular are like the Futhark ruins. Those are becoming super like trendy. And it's, you do have to remove ego because a lot of the Futhark runes, there's nothing like super fantastic to them, but what they mean, what they represent can be much more beautiful than what it looks like. So don't just take it at face value. Actually, if you need something for love or, spirituality or psychic ability or whatever it is you're looking for a symbol for, don't judge it just because it looks not as cool as some of the other ones. Okay, so I think that would be my advice along with what you guys have said.
Right now we have a big symbol, with people wearing masks, wearing our face masks. That's a huge symbol, and people could learn more about what's going on right now on our planet just by that symbol.
Well, I think it's funny too because people are so funny because people are so independent. If you watch people, look what they're wearing for masks. It's hilarious. Like, people have so many different things, styles, what they're doing. Some people are serious and they're wearing the real medical ones. Some people are just goofing around. Like, I think that's funny. So people are, you know what I mean? They're doing, like, drawing positive from it. So I noticed today, just out and about, people have cartoon characters on there. They have all sorts of funny stuff. So people are being, individuals still because they know that your face is being covered, like you said, symbolic, with this mask. But now they still want to be their own individual.
Yeah.
By having their own individual turn, put onto it, which I thought was sort of funny. Like, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think definitely with the pandemic and stuff, to me, what a mask represents is security. You're hiding yourself from it, and usually when you want to hide something is because you are seeking safety or to protect yourself. And that's very much what these medical masks are supposed to do, is protect yourself. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being on my podcasting. I definitely would like to have you all back on sometime. Yeah, thank you guys for being on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
it was so much fun.
Nice to see you
Nice
again.
meeting. Yeah, nice to see you too. Nice to meet you, Daryl.
You too. Nice meeting you guys.
Happy
Okay.
spring.
Good. Nice to meet you too.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, all right. Have a good night, guys.
All right.
Okay, you too. Thank you, Kay. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Good night. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you for joining my circle tonight. It was a pleasure to discuss this spooky topic with you, and a thank you to all my listeners for tuning in. And as always, dreadful dreams. Remember, my darlings, to always be kind to those around you, including our friends with claws, fangs, and fur. Hello, darling. Love the show and want to be more involved? All while showing your support? Have I got the perfect thing for you? Subscribe to my Patreon page today, and as a patron, you'll have the option to select which tier you are interested in, with exclusive patron-only offers from early access, live stream chats, shoutouts, distant readings, and so much more. If this has piqued your interest, please follow the link in the chat or go to patreon.com and search Cauldron Talk with Casey Colburn and become a patron today. Thank you for your support, darlings, and as always, dreadful dreams.